This is KAKU 88.5 FM. I'm Jason Schwartz. Welcome to the Neutral Zone. The Neutral Zone is brought to you by the MauiMiracle.org for a better tomorrow today.
It's funny how it's the little things in life that mean the most, not where you live, what you drive, or the price tag on your clothes. There's no dollar sign on a piece of mind, this I've come to know.
Well, welcome to our show. Oh, this is the Neutral Zone, MauiNeutralZone.com. I'm Jason Schwartz, your host. This is 88.5 FM, KAKU-LP, here in downtown Kahului. And some would say I'm the Kahului Karaoke King, but that would be KKK, so I don't go for that. But thank you. But I am here with a terrific guest. You know, people say, well, you're not neutral. What's the Neutral Zone? That means we speak to everybody about anything and everything, but we don't take heads. I don't carry a sword. I speak about all sides and all on issues, and I do things hopefully with integrity and honor where we can find out what we agree on and what do we want to do as people to be able to make things a better way and better world. I've been doing this a long time under many names, and here we are now. And I have a guest that is loaded to give you all that she has, and she's a really wonderful lady. I'm staring at her if you were watching TV or KAKU or Facebook Live. Big build-up. This is like a wind-up for the swing. This is Robin Knox. Good morning and welcome to our show, Robin.
Good morning, Jason. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Keep talking and jump in on me because I want to get your volume good. We have Tui is here. Tui is our service dog friend, and he's here and quiet and really good. He's been with you a few years now, huh?
Yes, he's been with me for 2 years now. And hopefully he'll continue to be quiet.
Oh, he's good. Now, I am the kind
He's never been on the radio before.
Well, you know, so then I hope he'll speak up. You know, the dog world has a lot to be said. I mean, and we have room for him.
Right.
But Robin, you know, the way I met Robin, I know Robin as Sea Lily. And she was, I could say dancing, but it's more like honoring the praises, the different aspects of the Tara. She was working, you were doing it with a bunch of ladies, with Prema and the girls is the way I look at it, and really honoring the Tara, and I've done video and things over time and got to know her. But I also had the good pleasure of speaking with you when you were candidate, Robin Knox, for
County Council, yeah.
Seat here in our island. And so people that are voters know this is Robin Knox, who is running for County Council, who lives in South Maui, but we represent all of us. And Robin's specialty that she seemed to be loaded with is, you had a lot of knowledge about stuff, but water was your specialty. How are you, I want you to kind of give people an idea about why are you known as the water person everyone comes to?
Well, I'm an environmental professional, which is I'm a scientist, also do a good bit of engineering work and deal with regulations and law.
I see.
And it's all oriented toward protection. And my specialty is water quality, so that's why you hear me talking about the water a lot. And
does that mean water like the quality of what we drink?
It means, yes.
Is he simmering down, Tui?
I don't know what's going on with Tui.
Let's close the door. We have. Okay, Tui, you all right?
Yeah,
Tui's
he's good.
okay.
He's just trying to make a bed down there.
Maybe we have to put a mic down there with him.
Anyway,
so your water
all
quality,
all water.
Water that's in the ocean. I'm just doing this for our guests.
Yes, all
our
water.
Radio guests.
That's actually one of the takeaways that I want everyone to get. There really is only one water. There's one water cycle on this planet, and the same water goes around and around. So it's really important how we treat that water.
All of it.
All of it. Everywhere. And that is actually one of the things I hope we get to talk about is kind of the flaws in how we've managed water in the past. For instance, shallow groundwater, brackish water near the shoreline
Yes.
is an undervalued resource. And so our rules and regulations and plans have allowed it to be polluted. And it turns out that's a problem because it's only one water.
So now, these problems that you're talking about the brackish water and poorly managed and things, we're speaking about calmly. But I've been listening to this for 30 years. I've been on Maui since 1988. When did you get here?
I got here in 2006 at the...
Imagine now. We were talking about this stuff before it was a problem. We're talking to people in the world about things that are here now that we're managing that don't have, if we don't change the way we are, we're going down. We have to do radical things, radical changes. Would you think that's true?
Well, I think we need to do what I call the new old ways. We need to act now, and there are new technologies and new science and engineering that wasn't available in the past. But the old ways of understanding, the really being connected to the water and understanding, water is life. To me, that means water is sacred and we should respect it. And if we guide all of our decision making from that place, I think we'd make better decisions that would benefit everyone.
Now, this is a decision for everyone to make in every moment, not just a government, right?
Correct.
We're talking about, you've been involved in legal things and water quality. Is that what I'm understanding? But you're talking about, very personally, we all have to honor water. Water that goes into our bodies, water that we're jumping into, water that we're flushing, where it goes, water that goes out to sea in injection wells. We had a guest last week, Stuart Stant, very nice man, environmental management of the county. He's the director, and his guy Mike Miyamoto, very nice gentleman. And he brought up something about injection wells, and I'm confused. Maybe you can help me, because legally.
Well,
He had 2 glasses of water, he said, and Alan Arakawa was the person that did this test, and said, here's 2 glasses of water. They both look the same, or which one will you drink? That didn't prove to me that the water is, I don't know. When I ask about gray water, and they say, no, that's what comes out of your washing machine. It's a whole different kind of water coming out onto the lawn.
Well, I hope we can talk about 4 things. 1, the nature of water, which we've already started talking about, necessary to life and sacred.
That way it'll keep us guided.
2nd, wastewater treatment, which gets into some of the, and there's a need for a lot of definitions, I think. That came out in your discussions with Stuart. I listened to that show. It was really good. And then
you can listen to it up online with this one as well.
Right. And in addition to wastewater, another source of pollution that affects water quality is runoff, non-point source pollution, contaminated runoff. And non-point source. It means it comes...
cesspool leaking.
Right, it's like diffuse. It comes from everywhere. So it's not from the end of a pipe or something that you can put your hands on like that.
I see, okay.
And then how do we... If we want to do what I said and take care of the water, how do we actually do that? How do we integrate this management of water quality into our decision making, into our planning, into our infrastructure plans? How do we do that? And that's, we're not doing that comprehensively. We're working in silos where we're doing drinking water over here, wastewater over here, runoff over here, and we're not connecting those dots.
Whose responsibility is it? I think all of us individually. The government, there's a Department of Water, there's a state thing of water, there's a federal. How do we know?
There are many overlapping responsibilities, but one of the county actually has a lot of control, more than the state and federal governments do. And in the past, there's been an attitude with the county when I would talk about, for instance, the water quality of the ocean. They would say, "Oh, that's the state's kuleana," but the reality is, all governmental bodies in Hawaii have a public trust to take care of the water, public trust responsibility.
So what I'm hoping, you're going to name the 4. What I'm hoping is that you name the issues that you see as issues that need to be helped, where we're doing good, what things are needed, some by the government and some by people, you and me, on ways we can all honor water so we can make the whole system better through our being conscious. So it's a combination plan. But we know water is the most important thing. I think more important than anything else is I don't know if we get it. We're on an island surrounded by water. It's salty. It's processed. In fact, I'm going this week to see water coming from the air. You going to go to that demonstration?
I saw the notice for that. I don't know
Saturday
if I'll be able to
morning
make
at 10
it. Yeah.
o'clock. I'll give you some notion on
Right,
what that's about.
right.
But I mean, the thing that I'm bringing up is water is important. I'd like to know the 4 areas you want to cover. We got plenty of time.
Well,
so we'll cover
I
them.
just said them: nature of water, wastewater treatment, runoff and polluted, non-point source pollution, and then how do we manage it? How do we manage? So those are the 4 things.
Okay.
So to start out, we've already talked about water a little bit, and one thing that's important is to distinguish quantity of water from quality of water, and often people get confused about that, and so it's important to remember that water has different qualities depending on where it is and what we've put in it and what the other surrounding conditions are. And that's separate from the quantity, but it can be affected by the quantity.
I see.
And a lot of our state laws that, like for instance, Commission on Water Resources Management, their responsibilities primarily for quantity. Department of Water Supply, theirs is for drinking water supply. Division of Environmental Management, their kuleana is clean up the wastewater. Department of Health is responsible for the ocean water quality and the stream water quality. So we as humans have kind of artificially divided all this up. But
That's not that effective.
Right, because if you look at water, the water itself doesn't really honor those little dividing lines that we try to impose upon
My
it.
concern is, I don't know. My concern is that we've already tainted our ocean with a Fukushima, never mind everything else, or an island of plastic. And so seawater and that world is going on. And here on land, we're taking valuable non-salt water and polluting it and not honoring it in many ways. We're on an island. I mean, what the mainland's doing and what the world is doing, we can see from a distance. And I used to think we were smart enough, and I hope to think we're still smart enough to grab this one while we can and do something about it. Do you think we're in a place where we can do something about it?
Absolutely, and I think there are other more subtle, invisible aspects to water quality that people maybe aren't as conscious of as they are Fukushima or plastics, because those things, and even polluted runoff that's got a lot of sediment in it, you can see those things, but there's other things we need to worry about. And what's really killing the world ocean to a large extent is nitrogen.
Oh.
And so that's one of the things I want to talk about
The runoff,
today.
that in 1983, the Department of Energy, on page 3 of their annual report, wrote that nitrogen from fertilizer can go and cause algae bloom. And then, that was 83. I got here in 88, and I watched them go through an algae bloom thing, and I saw they spent $200,000 on a study. And there it was. I saw it there before they started their study, and they come to the same conclusions.
It's been known for a long time, and it's
What's the
been
deal?
indicated as the cause of some of the toxic algae blooms that have been seen in Florida. These things occur naturally, but they are exacerbated by our actions when we supplement the natural amount of nitrogen with our waste and our fertilizers and other materials.
So you probably on a different show will talk about the DDT and the Monsanto chemicals.
There's all of that
and things
too.
like
So
that.
let's
That's another show.
Yeah, let's first just go back to the nature of water and think about our water cycle here on our islands.
Yeah.
The water, of course, comes from the rain, the fresh water. We have highly specialized plants high up on the mountains that help to capture that water.
The plants. Do we
Yeah.
have good storage up country?
We could use more storage, but we have natural storage in our aquifers.
Do we have enough? I mean,
And so
Hannibal
that's,
Flores
we
was
have,
there.
you know what, we have a lot of water.
He's 20 years ago.
When you look at other places in the world, we are blessed with abundant water supply. Now, there are areas like dry leeward sides that don't get a lot of rainfall, so that's part of what I hope to talk about too, is
So
how
here
we
you have
accommodate
plants
that.
up country that hold the water
Right.
and the rainfall.
And then the water goes to one of two places. Well, some of it actually goes back up into the atmosphere because those plants transpire, and some water goes back up, some evaporates, but most of it either infiltrates and goes into the groundwater, so it goes through the soils into the groundwater, or it runs off on the surface, and we would call that a stream. And on Maui we have perennial streams that run all the time, and then we also have intermittent streams that only run when there's big rain, like on the leeward side. But all of those are important. Again, we need to respect the intermittent streams in the same way we respect perennial streams, because they have an important function for water quality. And so the water, you know, as you would expect, it seeks the lowest spot, and it takes the path of least resistance. So that's how the water flows through our island. So it's going downhill, it's moving toward the ocean, and anything that we do on the land or anything we inject into the water is also moving with that groundwater toward the ocean. And lava tubes and things like that, and having very permeable geology means that water moves faster here than, say, on the continental U.S.
I am on radio here, so I don't want to lose our listeners in the detail. Please appreciate that. What's the point? The
Water
water's
moves
coming down,
downhill.
It's moving quick. We're not storing it. That's why I ask about storage. You say the plants. It's coming down. We have spot places, non-spot water. That's why I want to get and integrate the things you're talking about into what you're saying. I want to see where and what that. You talk about the water on the surface. We have limited water, the brackish water not being managed right. I told you it's 20 years ago.
Right. Well,
We're
as the
now-
water comes toward the ocean, of course, you get it in the center of the island, it's fresher, and then when you get toward the edges where the ocean is, that's where it mixes with the salt water from the ocean, so that's why you get your brackish water down there.
No, I
Yeah.
guess I'm trying to get to the issue because I understand that in a show of television, I would be showing things you're talking about. But some people are listening on radio, and some of us are watching TV, but the explanation of the water coming down the hill is important, but now here we reach people. And right now we have an election year. Last week I had a guy here who was appointed by the current mayor, who has Gladys Bissa running the water department, Dave Taylor, who he didn't want to run the water department because he had a perspective on what's going on in water. Water is a crisis. Upcountry cesspools are leaking. We hear about that. People are talking about quality of water, talking about injection wells and not quality there. Wastewater, what are they doing? Bioenergy plant.
It's all very complex.
Very complex,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But
So,
it's all
Jason,
water.
let me ask you, do you know what a cesspool is?
A cesspool is meant to take something and process it and eat it and be I guess it would be an aerobic process to disintegrate something and change it into something harmless. That's what I would hope.
That's not correct.
is
And
it?
that's why some definitions are in order.
So-
And we need to raise our collective IQ on this. So a cesspool is a hole in the ground. That's all it is, that you dump waste into. It is not treatment. It doesn't process anything.
There's no processing?
It is a disposal method. Raw waste in the hole, which goes into our groundwater, which gets to our ocean and our streams.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
the new rules are probably stopping that from being happening.
Last year, I think it was Bill 125, by 2050, we have to get rid of all the cesspools. Now that, to me, is a little scary, because if you look at there's a legislative report on the Department of Health website that you can actually see the maps. We have all these cesspools right above our water supply, and that one of the things they put out is nitrogen. And nitrate, which is a form of nitrogen, can be toxic to humans at 10 parts per million. And we have some groundwater upcountry that's greater than 10 parts per million or approaching 10 parts per million.
So who's in charge of that?
Department of Health, and they, they are working on trying to figure out how to get rid of all those cesspools. But, you know, it's going to take a lot of infrastructure, because we need more what you were talking about, which is actual treatment. And they were saying I think $1.7 billion to get rid of all the cesspools.
Okay.
And about $20,000.
88.5 FM in Kahului. You're listening to Robin Knox, who is, I want to call you a water specialist. I'm Jason Schwartz. $1.7 billion needed to correct the problem. That's clearly not in our budget.
Right.
How is that going to be addressed?
That's a good question. The options are to, you can put in an on-site treatment system like a septic tank, which is the next level of treatment, but still not too great. You could put an aerobic treatment system, which would be better. That would be what's called secondary treatment. And then you could you could put, you know, numerous houses. You could hooey up with your neighbors and get a better unit for all of you together to share. Or you could tie into a public system or a private system, similar to what we already have.
So, clearly, public system costs are very expensive. Private system, how's that? Cost less or more?
Well, the cost that the Department of Health said to replace a cesspool with a septic tank is $20,000, but that's a cost borne by the individual homeowner, and I've heard estimates as high as $50,000, depending on your geology and your layout of your property and where they can put all the different components.
Where are those numbers coming from? Where do the big numbers come from? From paying some company to do the work?
Well, you need engineers and you need construction, and
if
you
they
know,
do
it's costly.
1,000 of them, is it something they can boilerplate somewhat and bring the cost down?
There are some, but there's a lot of site-specific, especially on septic systems, a lot of site-specific engineering that needs to be done.
Only reason I'm asking is in this new computer age, I've seen these things where they show flow of piping on the phone. I think it's called flow or something. So if they can track where things are, I've seen things where they put a sleeve inside old pipe areas. I've seen all kinds of solutions.
They've actually done that on Maui somewhat, yeah,
that's why
to
I'm
close up
bringing
the
it up.
pipelines.
So
Yeah.
there are lots of solutions. We're living
Right.
in this techno age where if we use the techno we have, maybe we can solve some of these problems. I don't see that.
Right,
happening.
and these technologies, the latest you know, it's important to remember all of these technologies use the same processes that Mother Nature does. The breaking down and transformation of chemicals, you know, all of that is the same, whether it's in a wastewater treatment plant or out in the environment. So it's like, how efficient can we make it, and how can we deliver it to where it's needed for a cost that we can afford? Those are big issues. And what I want to prevent, what I see happening, is people spending money to not get us where we need to be from a water quality standpoint.
Well,
I don't want to
talk more about that when we
spend,
come back.
yeah,
We're doing a commercial here.
Okay.
You don't want to spend, say it.
I don't want to spend $20,000 upgrading a cesspool to a septic tank when that's not going to remove the nitrogen that's killing the ocean or the bacteria that make people sick.
Well, if you don't do that, do we have to handle both problems? We don't have an or, right? This problem, the U.S. homeowner who didn't want to do that, didn't want to spend that money, but here you are now forced to do that. Then there must be a way to put it into some kind of insurance plan. And well, that's a separate. I'm going to go to commercial.
We'll talk about it after the commercial break.
I'm going to come and give our station a break and give us a chance to regroup. Thank you guys for listening. We're KAKU 88.5. I'm here with Robin Knox. I'm Jason Schwartz. And now I'm going to hit the right button, and we are going to have hello from people that love you. Here we go. One sec, if I could find. You know, I can't find my cursor. Oh, there it is. We're in a new age here. Someone moving the cursor for me? Is that what's going on? Where is it? This is ridiculous. Do you guys have the cursor? There is no cursor. What is this? So we're going to keep talking until they come in and turn on a commercial. Here's one now. The Neutral Zone is brought to you by our kind donor, Cash for Gold, Kama'aina Loan, at 52 and 98 North Market Street in Wailuku, Maui. 888-242-5555. This is funny. I'm going to play some commercials if I can find the cursor. You know, when I say that I'm Ray Charles driving, I didn't mean it, but in here, when they say this station is automated, they mean it's automated. If there's no cursor and I can't find the thing to play commercials, you're going to have to listen to me. We have lots of people that are donors to us. One was Cash for Gold Cut Mine Alone. Richard Dan has been a friend of mine for, 30 years, as long as I'm here. He's a wonderful man, and he's a bank for people that don't have good credit. They can put money in and out, and if not, they can just leave it there and they'll sell it from there. Cash for Gold, been a lot of time, and he's a wonderful guy. You know, like he said, don't deal with me. I'm a pawnbroker. I'm supposed to buy it cheap. I get that. And then the Maui Miracle. Here's a website, themaumiracle.org. If our station is listening, please come and help me hit the commercials here, would you? MauiMiracle.org is a website that shows issues that show the heart of people, because this is an election year and there's a lot going on, and this is important. And this group felt a real importance to touch the land and be where Hawaiian is, which is from the heart, saving a beautiful place and thinking about it in a soft and loving way. Like my partner Ariel, who I'm looking for our commercials, but this is not commercial. This is Ariel. You'll remember this.
I am a divine act of God in every cell of my being. Here and now.
Ooh, thank you, Ariel. I am a divine act of God in every cell of my being, here and now. Very important. And it would be nice if I could see the cursor and give you some mid things. We're going to go back into the show. We're the Neutral Zone, KAQU. I'm here with Robin Knox. They may come in and decide we have a commercial break at some point. You appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.
So now I probably steered you off course.
Well, you were asking a good question, Jason, which is how are we going to pay for it? And it is going to take not only private property owners handling their part of it, but also there needs to be public funding. And
not public funding available for a crisis that is statewide. It could be funded by
we could have bond issues.
The people that
we
own
could
the
get
land have a vested interest. If A&B and HC&S and large landowners all became the bank without any money, this could be paid for. We could do this.
I don't know about that, but I know that my industry, the water and wastewater industry, has been petitioning Congress for lobbying Congress.
1 sec. We have a dog who thinks he's digging into the dirt.
He's trying to make a bed.
He's trying to make a bed. We'll be just a little while, my friend.
There you go. Good boy.
Okay.
Now, for 20 years or more, this industry has been lobbying Congress, saying you need to put money into this. Congress did in the 70s. That's how Maui got, wastewater treatment plants in.
Right.
But we need more. Now all they do are low interest loans, 1% interest loans. So there's an option. We can get some loans at a reasonable interest rate. Basically we fund a lot of things that are less important in my book than water. So I think we can figure out how to fund it. I think understanding what needs to be done is our biggest obstacle right now.
Oh, well, that's interesting, because there's a way to fund it. Is this something that private sector can take control, company, group, take control, put in home conversion, cesspool into septic?
It's a huge industry. In my hometown of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, water resources management is now the biggest economic driver.
And what about here? Why not?
Here, there's often a mindset that wastewater treatment, for instance, is a black hole where your money goes. People don't value clean water. They don't value
could people be fined
the treatment.
Doing the right thing?
Not usually. I think it's better to work with what we all want. I don't think anyone wants polluted water. I think
force
when
that to happen? I mean, seriously,
how do we do what?
force it to happen. And if it's going to happen, we force it to happen. That means if they're going to be tying into any system and they don't have their water processed
Well,
to some
that's
level.
at the end of the discussion, but yes, it need some of the things that I would like to teach people need to be incorporated into that planning, into land use planning, into infrastructure decision making. And right now, I want you to start listening. Whenever you hear these discussions of a new development or new money for infrastructure, I want to hear what they're saying about water quality, because they hardly ever mention it. And it's water quality that sets the goal. So how are we solving this problem when we don't even know what the goal is? That's the thing. We could spend all this money and still have the reef dying from nitrogen, because if we go in and do reuse without removing more nitrogen, we may just be spreading the problem around and making it harder to deal with rather than dealing with it.
What do you recommend?
One, wastewater treatment. That's where our investments need to be.
So what do you think of what they were talking about last week? Or is that part of the discussion? Come on, simmer down, young man. Tui, attaboy.
Yeah, I was getting excited, so he's getting excited.
I see. Okay. We're just talking, my friend. He's a very good service dog. He is here in service.
Okay.
And he knows you're passionate. When I look
That's
at
for
water,
sure.
that's another subject, boy.
But, just population growth for Maui, we will need another 5 million gallons a day of treatment capacity I think that's by 2026. We will need another 7.9 million gallons per day of capacity to get rid of all those cesspools. And I don't even know for future tourism growth. I couldn't find good numbers on that, but it's about 700,000 gallons a day just for tourists.
I think it's worth noting that that's too much. And that what I have seen is there is not 100% processing. It gets to, 80%? And then the rest.
What do you mean 80%?
There is waste. We don't end up with no waste. They try to get rid of waste in different ways. Last week, our guests were talking about growing biocrop and taking the biocrop and processing it to run their system and come out with pellets that are fertilizer.
There are a lot of good ideas out there, and for instance, reuse is a good idea. But none of these are the answer. I think that's the one mistake everyone makes. No, it's like, you got to tweak things in a lot of different places. Like if you've ever managed a budget, you could get rid of an entire department. That would get your budget in line. Or maybe you get all the departments to contribute by getting more efficient and tweaking things here and there. And that's how it is with the water. We would be better off to tweak and integrate our programs and our decision making than to just say, oh, we can only do this one part or we can't do that part.
Well,
yeah.
I think, and I think last week even in their positions, we'll see whether they stay past the regime change. I like them. I like the programs that they're working on and the way they're going about it, and they were open to more. That's, I think, your point, that one technology and one thing doesn't solve it. We have a growing problem. I like to think that decentralized power, decentralized solutions, a group of houses that come together with a solution, that we work that way, and that's self-sustainability will then create less
I think
into the ocean and these other systems will contain the good that we have and use it all differently.
Right. It's going to take a number of options, but we know already in West Maui where they're reusing wastewater and putting it on the golf course, that wastewater is going into the groundwater, it's coming out in the lagoon and discharging into the ocean with nitrogen subsidies from that wastewater. So if you don't take that nitrogen out before you start reusing it...
You guys know what nitrogen subsidies are. That means extra nitrogen, extra growth.
Very good.
Take the coral, smother it, make it grow, overgrow.
Toxic algae blooms.
Toxic algae bloom, fish die. I'm just, she talks like a scientist. I'm trying to make it where it hurts. If it doesn't hurt, people don't hear it. Joe Suki, may he rest in retirement. Joe Suki said, and I thought right, people respond when you make it more difficult. When gas prices go up, we'll think about mass transportation. We have to give people a reason. So now we have problems. These problems have to be solved. That's why I said force them. If we have to solve the water problem, we solve the water problem.
Right.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of we do. It's not only we handle the streams and the cesspools and activate the companies that solve the problems. We create a floating bond issue to do this, and we do this, and we do this.
And we do.
Does it take the water department? Does it take Department of Health? Where does all the talking happen? In the neutral zone. What else?
We need a neutral zone for water. Right now,
do.
we're in the silos,
So how do
where
we come
the
together?
decisions are not being
Are there
integrated.
things that you'd like to say put on the table for our guest next week?
Well, I think that the county needs to hire more environmental professionals. I think the county needs water quality specialists who know how to integrate all of these programs right now. And I want to be clear that I'm not saying that anything the county has done is bad. I'm saying they need to do more.
Okay.
The county was way ahead of the game on water reuse, way before we knew how really serious the world's nitrogen problem is, so all of that's good, but reuse with all the infrastructure that goes with that costs 10 times more than the treatment to remove the nitrogen. And
Let's
I
think
think
about that.
Yeah.
Reuse costs 10 times more than the process to remove the nitrogen.
Right.
So what does that mean with this? What does that mean? Reuse of what?
Of the wastewater, which is what's being done in
what-
Kihei. Stuart was talking about that.
So
Kihei
what
is
do
going
we do
toward
with that?
100%
What do we do with
reuse.
that water? How do we make it safe?
If you put in more advanced treatment, biological nitrogen nutrient removal is one. You can also do polishing with biological systems.
Are you talking in central systems for what he's got? In other words,
I think we're gonna need all the systems. I think we're gonna need on-site. It depends on your area. On-site, small regional plants, the large, county plants.
If the reuse is more expensive, but it's the safest, right? It's safest until, or can these other systems be done and then we'd let it out into the ocean and not use it for things where we really do need the water, right?
If we take the nitrogen out, then my concerns about the reuse are greatly reduced. Most people don't know when they say R1 water, that refers to bacterial quality and clarity of the water. It doesn't refer to nitrogen or toxic compounds or anything else that might be and is in that wastewater. Salts, it's not just pure water.
Penalized, or is that aren't we paying per day?
No, we're not. We're under threat of that because the Clean Water Act says if you have a point source like an injection well or a pipe, and that pollution, the pollutants, are getting into a water of the U.S., like the ocean, then you have to have a certain kind of permit. And the county didn't have that permit. Yeah.
Back away a little bit.
Oh, literally back up. I thought you meant.
Yeah, I want you to be about that far. So
Okay.
you don't pop each letter. Okay. All right. So, but what I'm saying in what you're sharing is that people have told me that you, for example, that you thought that the stuff coming out the injection wells was toxic at a level that was poison, and they wave it like a flag. So now what I'm hearing from you is they're doing some of that. They're going toward reuse. Is the stuff coming out of injection wells not getting penalized? They're threatening if it gets over a certain level?
No. If they don't get the permit would limit the levels of harmful pollutants and protect the ocean. The permits they're under now are Safe Drinking Water Act permits. They only protect drinking water. They don't protect the ocean. And drinking water can have 1,000 times more nitrogen in it than the ocean water can tolerate. So that's the problem. And so there's a lot of, I will tell you, there is on the Department of Health website a toxicity test that shows that the Lahaina effluent is toxic.
Well, that's powerful and important to note because different information. I mean, now, so that means it can come offline to do what Stuart's talking at a great expense, but they don't have the money. Is that what's happening?
I'm not sure exactly that part, what
In
you're
other
talking
words,
about.
If we
yeah.
can reuse it in Kihei, we're not reusing it in Lahaina, which is toxic because we don't have an outsourced, or it does cost too much money to do that.
Yeah, we
'Cause they know
can
how.
and should reuse it. It costs a lot more money for reuse infrastructure than it does for nitrogen removal infrastructure. I think if we clean up the water first, that whoever needs the water will help pay for that infrastructure. And think about who needs large amounts of irrigation water.
How do we come up with the money here suddenly? We didn't, right? But I know what we need
I think
to
we
do.
can. I think for treatment, yes, I think we can definitely come
From
up
our
with that.
budgets that were
State
created.
revolving loan fund, bond issues. However, every other city in the country treats their wastewater. And
Who would
so, how do
handle
they
this
do it?
here?
You know,
I mean, we've talked about Department of Health, the state, county, but
there's different agencies that handle different parts of that. But the county, of course, if for their treatment plants, would have the major responsibility.
So do we have it boiled down to a homeowner can go here? Some business have to come out, and do we have to have cooperation where it makes this issue public, where people can know where to go to do these things? Or are we waiting until it gets to crisis? Like you say, if
We're
people
already
don't-
there.
So I'm asking for the mechanism. We get people in office. We keep changing every couple of years. I think it's like, I've said it, and it sounds like a joke, but it's not. We're moving deck chairs around on the
Right,
Titanic.
right.
We don't handle the problems. We move things
Right.
around. We point fingers. We think of excuses. We have real growing. Excuse me, am I yelling? We have real growing problems.
I think if the county assigned somebody the responsibility for water quality impacts of county decision making, that would go a long way. That there would be some comprehensive overview of all these things that
Is that supposed to be
decisions
someone that, like Gladys Bice's position?
Well, right
Although-
now she's in Department of Water and they're in the silos, so it may have to come from the top of the administration, someone that would have the ability to interact with all the departments
And who
that are
would that be?
involved. Well, I don't know. I don't think
Would
that
that be the
position
mayor?
exists.
It doesn't.
No.
So, but it needs to be.
Well, right
like a
now the
law.
mayor has an environmental coordinator, but if that coordinator, for instance, could hire a solid waste specialist, a hazardous waste specialist, a water quality specialist, then
Is
we
that-
would be getting
Is
somewhere.
that Rob Parsons at this point?
That's who's in there at this point,
okay.
yes.
So now,
Yeah.
if he hired them, someone has to implement something. Do they have the money available to do these things? Do they have to be approved by a council that knows?
Yeah,
less?
the county council.
The council knows less about these issues. So
How
things
do I
that go back
educate
and
them?
forth.
I've got the
I mean,
question for
it's an
you.
amazing situation.
How do we educate the county council?
I mean, because they're the ones
yeah.
that it comes back to. They want the power to make the decisions and not let the mayor fly out of hand, which we've seen the mayor make.
But you know what? Everybody, the mayor, the county council, the directors, they're all trying to do their part, but there's no comprehensive plan that protects the whole resource.
So, how do we, I'm talking to you, world, how do we and who do we create to be the one to help us, or maybe it's a group, to help us coordinate them all? Is that something that you see any efforts like that happening in any way now?
Well, one thing that's good that we need more of is watershed planning. To look at it on a watershed by watershed basis. You know, are we getting a lot of cesspool leakage into our water that's affecting water quality? Are we having a lot of stormwater runoff? You know, you do have to look at it area by area because it's different for each. So if every watershed on Maui had watershed planning, if we had a county office that did watershed planning, that would be great. And that could start to get us looking more comprehensively.
When I hear that, it frustrates me a little bit because to me that's just yet another administrative decision block. I'm trying to take away, and maybe the planning part takes time. We're in a crisis. I like to say, when in a crisis, you don't do non-crisis things. We're in a crisis. There's a homeless crisis. There's a problem where we got problems where if this turns, we have a problem we can't
Even
turn
in a
back.
crisis, you have a plan. You
So-
have an emergency plan,
so
but
in our
yeah.
emergency time like now, a department to do that, an environmental guy like Rob hiring, where's all the money going? Mayor has all kinds of assistants. Is that because he's got people
You know, I'm not an expert on the county budget, but I know that we spend money on a lot of things, like advertising to bring more tourists here. Maybe some of that money could go into protecting those resources that those tourists are coming to experience.
So you're talking about somehow shifts in the resources we already have could take care of hiring of key people that could help coordinate these things. They would have to somehow be granted power to implement, sort of like a Robert Mueller of the water world. Kevin Costner, let's call it that. We'll hire Kevin Costner to be the Robert Mueller of Waterworld. Anyway,
No,
seriously.
it's just some comprehensive understanding, and you can do it with the existing structure if people can start to see this picture that I see as an environmental professional who specializes in water quality, seeing that it's all connected, following the pollution. Just like we account for money, we need to account for pollution.
You know, we are talking so heavy. This is KAKU 88.5 FM. I'm Jason Schwartz. This is the Neutral Zone. I'm here with Robin Knox. Robin is a water environmental, I don't want to call you a specialist. You're a consultant based on your experience doing and working with water systems in different state and here, and consulting with different people. You know, we're talking about subjects, you can tell that I'm getting all hot and bothered and off path. You know, first of all, I found the button and I can play the commercials, so I'm going to go play the commercials. Better late than never. We want to thank all the people that are being patient. We're going to play a couple minutes of commercials and come back and do a healthy 10-minute wrap-up. But I know that I've taken Robin through all kinds of ways. I want to be sure that we cover all the ground that we find important. Are we covering a lot of things probably in a non-traditional way? I'm just very fiery about this subject. You know, I can talk about using hydrogen in a plasma condition to evacuate everything from water. There are systems that are available that can go on your counter to do things to process water. That's another show. But
Right.
things are going on in this world. That's why I say technology is helping us solve this in unique ways. I'm hearing what we're talking about here, and we'll come back to it. I'll talk to you off break. Get ready. Here comes some really important information.
The Maui Youth Now Show, focusing on youth culture today. This weekly half-hour show is produced by and created for you, taking the pulse of youth culture from an island perspective. Watch local news, current events, fun challenges, trending videos, game reviews, and learn about other youth in your community. New episodes air on Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. on Akaku 55 or catch us on Vimeo.
Preparing for death can change your life. I'm Bodie B. Join me on Death Tracks, the show about wholehearted and sacred living and dying. We will follow tracks, make tracks, and play musical tracks as we explore aging, dying, and death. We'll have interviews and time for call-ins from our listeners. Join the conversation every Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. here on 88.5 FM, KAKU, the voice of Maui.
Funding for KAKU 88.5 FM is provided by sponsors like Jim Falk Motors of Maui, with sales and service on new and pre-owned vehicles, open 6 days a week, located at 260 Hana Highway in Kahului. For more information, visit jimfalkgm.com or call 808-270-2600. Thanks again to Jim Falk Motors of Maui for making the Voice of Maui's broadcast possible.
Have you or someone you know been diagnosed with cancer? According to American Cancer Society, an average of 19 people a day are diagnosed with cancer in Hawaii. Pacific Cancer Foundation is a nonprofit organization that provides free support services for Maui's cancer community. Visit our website for a list of programs or to make a donation. We are all in this together. Call today, 242-7661, or visit our website, pacificcancerfoundation.org.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
KAKU 88.5 FM is your Maui community station. The Voice of Maui features great local programming from people like...
Soy Miriam Laraway y te invito a que me acompañes cada viernes a escuchar un programa lleno de diversión, entretenimiento y mucha información. Conexión Latina, 88.5 FM.
Latino Connection, Fridays at noon, KAKU 88.5. The Voice of Maui.
Yeah, this is Jason Schwartz. We're back here on the Neutral Zone with Robin Knox, KAKU, the Voice of Maui, 88.5. We have a reach that we can reach down to the corner. So hopefully you're listening on our website, akaku.org, or you're listening on Facebook Live, or you're listening to a repeat, or you're going to MauiNeutralZone.com, and you're seeing this show and other shows. This show will be up by tomorrow, and it's up on Facebook. It's everywhere. But what's most important is I am here with Robin. We've been going on, bouncing off the wall. When you try to keep me on a subject, I jump all around because I get passionate. And it's not that I don't hear you. I think that some people will accuse me of cutting you off when you were trying to give information. But Ariel told me, facts tell, stories sell. And it's sadly the story of problems people have had with water in all kinds of ways that we don't want to talk about too much, but it's a real problem. And it's a real problem that deserves enough attention on the stories and the problems so that people say, it's my responsibility to do something for my cesspool. It is my idea. I want to talk to my neighbors in the area. Let's talk about how much it's going to cost, and we're going to do this, and we're going to float a deal. And then it's up to people like us who have creative bond sources to start putting up a trumpet with, this is where you find solutions, people. And if not, we take some of our local landowners, and they already are banks, but we turn them into banks, lending banks, that pay for some of the things that we need to implement these programs. How are our kids reacting? You know, this is all one giant mishmash. When they see problems that they're left with and they know it has to be handled, they're being handled the word. They get a world that the water sucks. We're allowed to say sucks. Things are crazy here and they're over the top and young kids don't know what's happening. Do we give up or do we decide to become superheroes? I think it's time to become superheroes, all of us in our own right, in everything that we do, and honoring water is one of them. We didn't get into today my favorite thing, which is water for health. I have a friend up country. His name is John Beatty. He has designed a constant control hydrolyzer water creator that creates HHO and HHO plasma, a high state of water. Hydrogen and its medical health benefits for ingestion into water, encapsulation. Those are other uses of basic things. We have ways of creating power from water. We have water is an amazing thing.
It is.
But we also need to drink it. We need to deal with it. We need to clean it. And if we're going to leave our kids a world of any kind, you want them to be a fish left? Do you want to be able to drink? Do you want to be able to function? Do you want to, we talk about tourists, you talk about future tourist growth. Nick and Rance made me understand the word carrying capacity. And I hear the people talking about, what are we doing to this place? How much is enough? When do we stop? Prices are going up because we need affordable housing. There's homeless problems. The fire is burning people. This is emergency.
Right.
And that's why I get like I do here, Robin.
With water, we call
a minute, my goodness.
With water, here's in a nutshell. We need to move from a place of being ashamed of our wastewater to being proud of it. When we can do that, we will be taking full advantage of that resource. They don't even call it wastewater treatment anymore. They call it water resource recovery. And that's where we need to head. And that is where we're headed. But we could do better with some more comprehensive approaches. That's
So-
what I want to teach people about.
Comprehensive approaches, and we can do better. And on a very individual basis, don't pollute. And on a very individual basis, consider it important to find answers and look for the answers to what to do with upcountry cesspools. Think what we got to do. We have a minute left.
Ask the right questions.
And keep asking them, and
Yeah.
don't go away. And you
Yeah.
know, we're not going to go away, and that's why we don't book things too far in advance. We'll see who we have on next week, because we're going to just keep on talking about issues until we solve all the problems and let the government help us. You know, this is the Neutral Zone, and we're here every week, Mondays at 11, and all the different media ways we're found. Robin, you've been a terrific guest. I know that, do you have an email that people can contact you, or some way people can get in touch with you?
Right,
We only
on
have 30 seconds.
Facebook or Gmail,
20
robin.s.knox, robin.s.knox@gmail.com.
There you go. We
Or
got a few
on
seconds
Facebook.
left. We're Maui Neutral Zone. I'm Jason Schwartz. Don't you love it when we run out of time? I love this. The Neutral Zone. It's anything but neutral.